Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Alma Live. I'm Adriana Monique Alvarez, and we are continuing our conversations around emotional resilience. What does it take to roll with the punches? We have a guest today. I'm going to see if she's available right now. Hi, Karen. How are you?
Hi, how are you?
Good. I'm so excited to have Karen with us. She is a grief coach and child loss mentor. Karen, first of all, I just want to remind everyone, let us know where in the world you're joining us from. And if you have questions for Karen, be sure to put them in the comments and we will address those toward the end. So Karen, tell us a little bit about yourself and what you're up to in the world.
Okay. Well, how I got here was I lost my child. I lost my son, Nicholas, 24 years ago. So it's been a long journey and I've done a lot of things on the way, but I am just so happy to finally have found my way in the world and the thing that I need to be doing in life.
Yes. And so tell us the thing that you're doing for other mothers.
Okay. Well, I am a grief coach. I've been through training for grief coaching, but I think that more important than that training was just my experience of having lived through it. So what I do now is I work with moms one-on-one and in groups to help them figure out the next little tiny step that they can take to move them along on their grief journey. And it's a very long journey, and it's, as you know, it's very much one step forward, two steps back. But over time, amazing things can happen. And that's basically what happened for me.
Very true. So, we're talking, we've got Lynn with us. She says Karen's the best. I totally agree. So, right now, because of what's going on in the world, we're looking at the real characteristics that are forged during difficult times, right? Because we don't learn emotional resistance on the easy breezy days when it's like, oh, smooth sailing, everything's great in my life. So what's your definition of emotional resilience? What are those characteristics?
I mean, to me, a mom who has lost a child is the definition of resilience. It's the perfect word to describe her, because although the very worst thing that could happen to her has happened, she still gets up every day and she's still trying to make it in the world. And that's just an amazing thing. And every day I'm working with these people and I'm just always amazed by how they keep going. Even though they've got the underlying sadness and heartbreak, they just keep trying. They want to make their lives have meaning.
I completely agree with you. It's that inner strength and will to keep getting up, like you said, even though they've experienced the absolute worst.
Right. And it's kind of a buzzword in the grief world as far as resilience goes. And I'm glad they're using the word now, because it gives us all permission to know that it's possible. Yeah. And that by concentrating on it and having a role model and some examples of being resilient, these people learn that they can also be resilient. Yes. And so it is just the perfect description of the people that I work with.
So I would love for you to share a little bit more about your story and your son. What can you share? What I want, obviously I want you to share what you're willing to share, but for our listeners, I want them to understand where you're coming from.
Okay. I have, over the years, I've started telling this story. And so it's been 24 years. And obviously the story has changed as the years have gone on. And as I've gotten into working with other moms and telling my story, I've realized it's almost in a way become like this automatic little blurb that I'm saying. And that, has been that I lost my 8-year-old son, Nicholas, when he fell through the ice of a frozen pond. He was trying to help another boy that day and they both died. And I realized that I hated the fact that I have drilled it down to such a small little sentence because, Nick was so much more than that sentence. And my journey is so much more. But I'm always hesitant to share too much, in just that I'm so concerned with the people that I'm dealing with, and I want them to have a chance to tell their story. Um, I feel like telling your story is the most important part of being able to get through grief, because telling it leads you to acceptance. And people hate the word acceptance because they think it means, oh, it's okay, everything's okay, and I have moms tell me I will never accept it. And I don't think they really understand what acceptance is, which is just that this has happened, I cannot change it, and now I have a decision to make as far as how I move forward. And so it took me a long time to make that decision, but when it happened, Nick was just a beautiful, wonderful 8-year-old, fun, silly, happy boy. He had a 1-year-old sister, Brooke, at the time, and he loved her. And life was just good. Life was just really good. But now looking back on it, I realize I was so clueless, sort of silly in my life, just did not know that everything hangs in the balance in life. And, things can change in a moment's notice. And that's what happened for me. We were home from school that day. It snowed here in South Carolina, which is a weird thing. And so school was canceled, daycare was closed, couldn't do anything. And so we just were going to enjoy the day. Nick got dressed, went outside to play, and said goodbye, have fun. And then the next thing I knew, I had someone knocking on my door telling me that Nick fell in the pond, and did not even register. I was just like, what pond are you even talking about? And, I just took off running, had my pajamas on, no shoes, just ran over to this pond in our neighborhood. And all I could see was just a big hole in the ice, and, just didn't even really know what had happened. And then before long, a bunch of rescue workers, divers, helicopters, news, they were just all over the scene. And it felt like it took hours and hours and hours for them to get the boys out of the pond. But in all honesty, I have no idea how long it took, because I was just sitting there like in a daze. And so we hopped in a police car, followed the ambulance, and all the way there, that policeman was telling us, I think it's going to be okay. I've heard stories of, people being in the freezing water. So, we had hope that he was going to be okay. But as soon as we got to the hospital, we realized that it was not going to be okay. And so both boys died that day. And that was the day that changed my life from before to after. And, many years went by where I just really kind of lived life, existed, did what I had to do. I was lucky I had my daughter, Brooke. She was 1. And a couple of years later, I had my son, Colin. So that did help. But, there's always this longing and this sadness in the back of it. Mm-hmm. So that's the story of what happened. Mm-hmm. And then the story of how my life changed really took 20 years for me to figure it out. But I'm so glad that I finally did.
Me too. I distinctly remember the day you popped into my world and you wrote a comment on a thread or a question I had posted, and you had said what you did. And I was just about a year out from losing Nina, having a stillbirth. And I just remembered thinking, oh my God, this woman, she can get me. This woman could understand me. And that's what I believe too, when you share something of your experience and you let it be known what you've been through, and somebody else hears it or sees it or comes in contact with you, and they've experienced loss or heartbreak, they've lost a child, it's like this instant, like, okay, you get it. And so I appreciate you telling your story. And I also remember when Trailblazers came out last year, you contributed a chapter to this book that became a bestseller in 8 countries. And I remember you saying, I never thought I would do this. I never thought this would all be possible. So for those who listen and who watch this, what's one step that you would recommend? Because you went from absolute heartbreak and just sort of existing in life to you've written your story, you speak, you help other mothers. What was one baby step along this road that might help someone who's watching?
Well, this isn't really a baby step on the path of business, but my baby step is a really definite one, and it's a crazy one. But I went to a Zumba class, and it sounds so corny, and it has nothing to do with fitness or, getting in shape. It was nothing to do with that, but it was just getting out of the house, taking an hour off of the worries and the problems that come with life and with grief, and just being among other fun people for 1 hour. And it just woke me up. And then from there, it's like the world becomes so exciting because you realize, wow, that made me feel alive. What's next? And so even though it seems like such a silly thing, and I would never pretend to tell a grieving mother, oh, just go to a Zumba class and you'll be fine. That's not how it works. But it's just finding that thing.
Yeah.
And then for me, I love exploring all these new things that I never even was exposed to before. So it's been through your group, through all the people that were contributing to the books. I never knew about any of this stuff. So it's all such a new world for me, and it's very exciting.
I love what you said, because it's like the Zumba class represented that something sweet in life, something exciting, something, like you said, gave you relief and a break. Because I know that's what I experienced too. Sometimes at the, not even end of the day, like by lunchtime, I was exhausted because my brain and my emotions were just gnawing on this. Like, what if I would have done this? And why did this happen? If I, could this have changed the course of things? I want, and all of this. And it's so exhausting in the grieving process. And it's like you gave yourself that little break. And it could look completely different for each person, but what can allow you just to have something else to turn toward, to look towards?
Right.
I love that.
And sometimes it can be so simple that you don't even realize it's right there in front of you.
It's true. So, and you know what? Go ahead, Karen.
Go ahead. Oh, I was just going to say, going back to you reading my comment and you recognize, you feeling something, a kinship to it. And it's so funny that I would have never guessed that you had been through that. And that's the thing, is you can't just look at a grieving mother and say, oh, well, she's a grieving mother. I mean, we are so much more than that. And I think when you start to realize that you are more than that, that it's not just, here I am, I'm this sad, tragic figure. You have it in your hands to decide. And so you made that decision when you kept on going through your business and you didn't let it, you were sad and it was there in the background, but you didn't let it stop you. And so you just can't judge a book by its cover, for sure.
That's so true. You never, ever know what someone's been through until till that veil is pulled back and the conversations start. It's That's very right. true. That was what I learned as well, because when it happened to me, I thought, oh my gosh, I must be the only woman who's ever had a stillbirth, because I literally had never heard of a woman having that. I didn't know a single family member, friend. I didn't know of anyone. And I thought, oh my God, it's just me. I've done something very wrong and something very off. And when I started talking about it, I started receiving hundreds of messages and emails going, I've been there, or my sister has, or my daughter. And I was like, wow, it's the silence that keeps it so hidden.
Right.
Yeah.
My heart breaks for you that you had to go through that, but especially around stillbirth, that is a very tricky topic. People don't discuss it. But in general, losing a child, there's so many reasons why people don't talk about it.
Yeah.
You know, us as moms, we start to not talk about it because we don't want other people to feel bad or feel sorry for us. And then other people want to comfort us or talk about it, but they're afraid to say anything because they think it's going to make us cry or it's going to, make us sad. And the thing of that is it does make us cry sometimes and it does make us sad, but that's all a part of it. You have to go through the crying, the sadness. You have to do it. If you avoid it, it will wait for you. And that's a painful, painful lesson to learn.
It will wait for you. It absolutely will. And that's what I've learned is I many times I've come up against this sort of crossroads, right? I can either feel what I'm feeling, even though it sometimes takes me to places I never wanted to go, or I can decide to suppress it, ignore it, do whatever I can to push it back. But like you said, it's not going anywhere.
Right.
It's not going anywhere.
In the beginning, you absolutely have no choice. It overtakes your body. It overtakes your mind. You can't do anything. But as time goes on, you can distract yourself. And you have to distract yourself sometimes. I mean, there is a balance that has to take place between feeling the feelings and the healthy distractions. And all one way or all another way is terrible. It's not good. But I think that is the journey of grief, is just figuring that out. And so when I'm working with people, I try to encourage them to fit it into their schedule eventually. And like at first, you can't schedule it. But as time goes on, if you take the time to do the meditating, to have the quiet time, to have time to yourself, it won't always come and surprise you and pop out of nowhere. It still happens to me even after 24 years. But, it's just if you dedicate yourself to grieving in a healthy way, it makes life a lot more bearable.
So true. So what would you say for someone who might be watching, they've experienced the loss of a child, and something with current events is sort of poking in those tender places? Do you have a recommendation?
I was really shocked by my whole community of women when this whole virus started and the staying at home. I was so worried about them. I didn't know how they were going to deal with it. I just thought it was just one more thing. But what I found was that in losing a child, your ability to deal with other things that come up is grown exponentially because you've already been through the worst. What more can happen? And so when I started posting in the group about, well, how are you guys doing? How do you feel about this? They were just all like, we're good. It's okay. They just still want to talk about their children. They still want to, that is their priority. And so this really does have a way of snapping your mind and your life into prioritizing the things that are important. But as far as being isolated, that was the thing that I did worry about, as far as the people that were used to having their support systems be on the outside of their home, going to a support group, just going to lunch with a friend, the things that they relied on got taken away. Even going to work, such a huge relief just to be able to go to work. So now they're locked up with all their feelings. And so, my number one recommendation is to get support. wherever you need to have it from. And different things for different people. I mean, I have a support group that meets online on Zoom, and I've got people that works for. And then other people, they just need to talk to their friends or their family, or, you know, do online learning, you know, whatever it may be. You know, just don't leave yourself with no support because you're locked in the house. And that stinks, because, you know, it stinks that the mom who's been through so much has to continually reach out, but she does. And so that's what I try to tell people early on, as much as possible, is I know it's not fair. I know these people should understand what you're going through. I wish they did, but they don't. And so you have to tell them what you need. And it's hard. Moms don't usually tell other people what they need all the time.
No. And one of the things I learned as well is that people have no idea how long you're going to need that support, right? I had people who were like, "Oh, it's been 3 months. You're doing good now." Like there's like a timeline, right? I was like,
Yeah,
3 months.
exactly.
It's not even real yet at 3 months, right? So yeah, I've learned that you have to be willing to ask for what you need as directly and specifically as you can, and knowing that there's absolutely there's no end to it. So Karen, I would love for you to share a little bit about how people can work with you.
Okay, well, the way people usually make their way to me is through my Facebook group. I have a group called Rising Above Hope for Moms That Have Lost a Child. And I am proud of this group. It's got an amazing bunch of ladies in there that support each other. And so that is the way that people find their way into my life. And it's based on positivity. So there's a million Facebook groups out there. And for moms that have been through this, they know they can be some pretty dark and scary places. So my group, when I started it, was just based on positivity, based on looking forward and finding ways to live with this in a positive way and make meaning out of your loss. So, you know, some people get to the group and they start answering the questions, and one of the questions is, can you remain positive? And they bail out at that question because they're not ready or they can't, and that's okay. But the moms that remain are the ones who want to have a future. So that's where they start. I have daily coaching and prompts in that group, but I also work one-on-one with people. And what we do is we initially meet with each other. You know, we meet on Zoom or on the phone, and everyone's so different that I can't just say, this is my program and we're going to work on this, this, and this, because every mother's grief is different. And so I have to hear their story and meet them where they are and help them determine what are things that are important to them. I mean, for some people, it's just, I have to figure out a way to get up and go to work every day. I have to figure out a way to take care of my other children, even though I don't even want to get off the couch. And then for some people, it's been several years and I just feel stuck and I don't know what to do next. And so we work together to just, again, identify those tiny little things that you can do. And, you know, by the end of 3 months, you just wouldn't believe the types of things that people are doing. And I'm always amazed. I'm always so proud of them. It's just, it seems like a very depressing job to do, but to me, it's not at all, because I know that these people need me and they can make so much progress just by making that decision.
Absolutely. Well, I encourage everyone to join Karen's group. If you're not already a member, it's the best group available for moms who have lost a child. And I also want to put up your website. Be sure to check out Karen on her website. You know, there's something that you had said in the beginning. You said that when you lost Nick, you were almost naive to the fact that, life could change in a moment, right?
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that I have been hearing a lot right now is, oh, I just, everyone's kind of feeling that, like, oh, things can really change just like that, right?
Right.
And so one of the things I just want to sort of circle back to as we wrap this up is really being able to find some joy in today, to seize, even if it's just 4 minutes or like an hour Zumba class, right? Because we really aren't guaranteed anything tomorrow. Yeah.
No. And it's hard when you first lost a child to realize the things that you have in your life that you can be grateful for. But you have to open your eyes to those little things. And it sounds corny, but it's the birds that are singing outside. It's the beautiful sky. It's your little child crawling around on the floor, or your teenager making a joke, or whatever it may be. You've got to understand, and you do understand better, I think, how precious all of those things really are. I always say that, I've as a human being, I've evolved so much since this happened to me. If I could have Nick back, I would go back to being that silly, naive person, but I can't. So I am grateful. I feel like Nick is the one who brought me to this point. And it was a hard, hard lesson to learn, but I am so grateful for everything in my life right now.
Absolutely. For those of you who are watching, if you have any questions for Karen, please feel free to pop them in the comments. I want to put up a quote that you had given me, Karen. It's possible to be happy after a traumatic loss. Yeah, this is one of those things that I think every grieving mother will probably wrestle with, right? Not only if it's possible, but if it's right. Is it okay? Is it right for me to be happy after losing a child? Is there something wrong with that, right? I remember myself, I wasn't aware of it until, I had some space and could look back, but I could see how I would almost withdraw myself because I didn't know if I deserved to have that happy moment, if I deserved to laugh or to be light again, if I deserved, that amount of happiness. And so I love what you have to say, because it's true. Not only is it possible, our children, they want that for us.
Right. It's almost like our obligation in order to make their life have that meaning. And whenever I started to say that, which is, yes, you can be happy, I felt it was the most controversial thing that I could say. Like, I was scared to put it out there. And then I just finally decided that really is what I want my message to be. Because there are going to be some moms that don't believe it and don't want to hear it. But there are some moms that are just dying to hear that it gets better. I can't tell you how often I can be in another Facebook group. And I mean, there's groups of people that are 30,000 mothers. Like, this happens a lot more than what you realize. But, the people will come on there and they'll say, this just happened to me. I lost my son. Oh my God, tell me it's going to get better. Mm-hmm. And, 90% of the comments might be, no, it really doesn't get better, Mm-hmm. And to me, that just breaks my heart, because that is called being stuck in grief. And you don't have to be stuck, but you have to work, and it's hard work.
Yeah, it is true. It's almost like I felt like I have to fight my way through sort of this quicksand, because if I don't, it will just consume me. Kathy says, Karen, you're a true inspiration. You've helped me more than you know. Thank you so much.
Oh.
What a beautiful, thank you. Thanks, everyone, Kathy, who has joined us. Yes, beautiful. Karen, is there any final words that you would like to leave our listeners with?
I mean, I will go back to trying to find that hope. At the end of the day, hope is all we have. And if you have no hope, then your future is very bleak. So even in the early days after the loss of a child, just know that opening up that little window of hope will get you very far. And it doesn't happen overnight. It's a long process, but it's possible. And if you can get through it, what's on the other side waiting for you is just an amazing, amazing transformation.
Absolutely. Thank you, Karen, for being here. Thank you for everyone who's watching. Karen, you have some beautiful comments in the comment section. I want to remind our listeners to pick up their free pass to networking influencers and my free guide, Jumpstart Your Book. The links are in the description. Karen, thank you for having the courage to share this and to assist mothers who have been through the worst. Until our next call, big hugs from Mexico. Stay well.
Hugs.
I'll talk to you soon. Of course, my pleasure.
Bye.